This lesson is about properties of parallelograms. The goal is to use relationships among sides and angles of parallelograms and to use relationships among diagonals of parallelograms. The standard is geometry, congruence, number 11, and geometry, similarity, right triangles, and trig, number 5. What you should know by the end of this lesson is that parallelograms have special properties regarding their sides, their angles, and their diagonals. In a quadrilateral, opposite sides don't share a vertex, and opposite sides don't share a side, such as in a triangle. So in this quadrilateral, or in this parallelogram, AB and CD are opposite sides. They do not share an angle. And angle A and angle C are opposite angles. They also don't share a side. Our first theorem of parallelograms is that if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then opposite sides are congruent. That means the length of the opposite sides would be exactly the same. So AB would be the same length as CD, and side BC would be the same length as side AD. This first problem asks us to find the value of U in the rectangle DEFG. So because opposite sides are the same, I know that this side and this side are exactly the same, so I don't even need to look at that number. So I'm going to put 3U equals U plus 2, and I'm making them equal because I know that they're congruent. So I'm going to first subtract U, 1U from both sides. I get 2U equals 2. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and I get U equals 1. So the value of U equals 1. And if I needed to find out what the length of these sides were, I would do 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 times 1 is 3. So the length of these sides would be 3. But since it's just asking us to find the value of U, the value of U is 1. Your practice problem 1 says to find the value of B in this parallelogram RSTU. Remember, opposite sides are congruent or make the sides equal to each other. This problem wants us to find UV in rectangle STUV. So it wants us to find the length of this side of the rectangle. So it is equal to this side. So I don't know what this side or what Y is, so I'm going to have to use this side equals this side before I can figure out what that side is. And once I know what the length of ST is, I can find out the length of UV. So I'm going to make 6y minus 77 equals 5y minus 52. 5y is the smaller number. To make it equal to 0, I subtract 5y. I do that to both sides. I have y minus 77 equals negative 52. I add 77 to both sides. This gives me y equals 25. So I know now that y equals 25. So I'm bringing 25 over here and replace it. 3 times 25 minus 53. That's 75 minus 53 equals 22. So UV, or the length of UV of that rectangle, is 22. So this was a two-step problem. I had to find the value of y by using the longer sides and then plug that number into the shorter side to find the length of the shorter side. Here's your problem. They want you to find the length of HI and FI in parallelogram FGHI. So you have to find the length of both the short side and the long side of the parallelogram. The next theorem of the parallelogram properties states that if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then consecutive angles are supplementary. Remember, consecutive angles would be angles that are right next to each other, like A and B, or B and C, or C and D, or D and A. They are supplementary. That means when we add them together, we get 180 degrees. Okay, this problem wants us to find the measurement of angle C, right? And there are no numbers or letters here, but they give us some for angles A and angles B, and we know that these two consecutive angles equal 180 degrees. Well, we also know that these two angles are consecutive angles, and they would equal 180 degrees. So that tells us that this angle and this angle must be the same measurement. So once we find out what Q equals, we just need to find out what this angle equals, and that will be the same measurement as angle C. So let's go ahead and find out what Q equals, and then we can find out what the angle measurement is. So we are going to put our Q's together, or the variables together, and I have 4Q and 6Q, so that gives me 10Q. Then I have a positive 64 and a negative 44. So 64 minus 44 gives me 20, and that equals 180. Kind of getting ahead of myself. So I am going to subtract 20 from both sides, which gives me 10Q equals 160. Now I need to divide both sides by 10, which leaves me Q equals 16. Now I know what Q equals, so I just need to find the measurement of angle A, which will give me the measurement of angle C. So I'm going to take 6 times Q, which is 16, and subtract 44. Well, 6 times 16 equals 96, and minus 44 equals 52. So the measurement of angle C equals 52. In your problem, you just have to find the value of T in rhombus GHIJ. The next theorem about the properties of parallelograms says that if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then opposite angles are congruent. And we kind of saw that earlier when we had angle A and angle C in the problem that I worked out. And then also angle B would be congruent to angle D. So whatever those angles are opposite each other, they are going to have the same measurement. So this problem is asking to find the value of t in this rhombus ABCD. Now, measurement of angle B and angle D, they are the same because they are opposite angles, so I'm going to set them equal to each other. So I'm going to have 2t minus 90 equals t plus 10. So I'm going to subtract 1t from both sides. I'm left with t minus 90 equals 10. I add 90 to both sides, and I have t equals 100. So the value of t in this problem is 100. Your practice problem is to find the value of B in rhombus EFGH. This problem is asking me to find the measurement of angle W. So I not only have to find the value of S, I have to find the measurement of that angle. So I have opposite angles, so they're congruent. So I have 2S minus 55 equals S plus 36. I subtract 1S from both sides. S minus 55 equals 36. I add 55 to both sides, and I have S equals 91. So to find the measurement of angle W, I add 36 and 91, which gives me 127 degrees. So the measurement of angle W in that parallelogram is 127 degrees. In practice 5, you need to find the measurement of angle G, which is this angle here. Now you'll notice there are no letters on it, but you'll need to find the value of letter V, and then if you remember that consecutive angles equal 180 degrees. So you'll need to find the value of either F or the measurement of angle H, and then subtract that from 180 degrees to find the measurement of angle G. The last theorem we're going to look at about properties of parallelograms has to do with their diagonals. And the theorem states that if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then the diagonals bisect each other. Remember when a line bisects another line, that it cuts it into two equal sections. So when this diagonal cuts the other diagonal, it bisects it into two equal sections. So this section is the same length as that section, and this section is the same length as that section. And remember, one diagonal doesn't have anything to do with the other diagonal or the length of the diagonals. It's just it cuts a diagonal exactly in half. Alright, so this problem says that if WZ is 2S plus 19 and YZ is 8S plus 1, find the value of S in parallelogram VWXY. Well, because this diagonal cuts this exactly in half, those two segments are congruent. So we are going to set this equal to that and solve for S. So we have 2S plus 19 equals 8S plus 1. 2 is my smaller number of variables, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. I have 19 equals 6 s plus 1. I subtract 1 from both sides. That gives me 18 equals 6s. And when I divide both sides by 6, that gives me s equals 3. So the value of s in this problem equals 3. Your final practice problem is if the measure of AC is 3t minus 58 and the measure of AE equals t, find the value of t in the rectangle BCDE. So how well have you done on learning the goal of understanding the properties of parallelograms based on their sides, their angle measurements, and their diagonals? If you don't get it, go watch the video again. And if you sort of get it, or I've got this, then you go ahead and do your IXL. You should be able to master this lesson at 100%. And if you're so good I can teach this, then you should have no problem mastering this. Good luck. And look at our happy administrators, all wishing you a fond farewell.